Well, hello everyone. My name's Travis. Is that too loud?
It's good.
No? Good. I'm Glen's oldest son. My younger brother, Mark. My mom, Kathy, is here. And we'd like to thank everyone for coming today. I see a lot of familiar faces out there. People I haven't seen in a very long time. I know some of you traveled a long, great distance to be here. I know Dad would have appreciated that. Well, if you know Dad, he'd probably be like, well, why did you spend the money on fishing gear or hunting gear? What are you driving all the way up for? I also want to thank those who helped set this event up. Family really appreciates it. You know who you are. Thank you very much. Try to get through this without crying. Dad passed away on February 14th this year. I've spent the last 4 months just kind of wondering what to say at his eulogy or celebration of life event, whatever we're calling it. He went on the internet looking for the perfect words, the perfect phrase, and I just finally decided that I needed to just put things down in my own words. So here it goes. Dad was born in Michigan, 1947. One of the funny things about it, when he'd go to a doctor's appointment, they'd say, okay, I need your date of birth. And he'd only give them the first month and then the day. They'd say, well, what year are you? I'm a 47 model. I'm looking like a car. They look at him like, what? He's a real joker. Moved to Oregon in the late 60s, met my mom, Kathy. As many of you know, Dad worked in the mills and in construction until like the early 2000s when he was injured on the job. He loved his last job the most, working for Johnson Rock Products. I see some of his coworkers here today. Thanks for coming. Dad was proud of his work. Whenever we were in town, he would always point out the sewer pipeline, all the different lines that he helped lay over the years every time we were in town. I think I know of every job Johnson Rock has done from like the late 80s to the 2000s. That's how proud he was of his work. People have told me how fun it was working with him, especially like the newer people. He was always there to help them out and show them how to do something. He was just that type of guy. He wanted you to succeed. Sorry. Whew. Dad was my fishing and hunting partner. I still remember him taking me and my brother way up the East Fork to fish for cutthroat and steelhead. And when we were little, he'd make a fire for us and cook potatoes and fish. It is some of my best memories I have growing up. He was a lot of steelhead fishermen in here, a lot of fishermen in here. He was the type of guy that let you cast first into a hole when he knew there was a steelhead in it. Like, he enjoyed people catching them and watching them catching them and doing it himself. He was just that type of guy. Where did I thought? Yeah, he would give, whenever we were trolling for salmon, he'd always give me or my brother the pole, and he just enjoyed, again, watching us fight and land the fish more than catching it himself. Funny story, one time we were deer hunting, or elk hunting, one of the two. We were coming down Weyerhaeuser. My brother was in the front passenger seat, I was driving, and Dad was in the right rear passenger seat. And all of a sudden there was an explosion in the back of the seat, like powder. Come to find out, when Mark put the seat back, it clipped the fire extinguisher that nobody knew was under the seat, and it just blew it all over the car. Dad had it all over, like flour all over his hair. Man. He was a little angry at first, you know, but in the end we all laughed, cleaned it up. As many of you know, Dad loved gardening. He spent a majority of his time doing that. He'd start growing plants in the greenhouse around March. He'd work in the garden all the way up to around October. out there every day working, pulling weeds, rototilling, moving sprinklers. As many of you know, Mom and Dad sold produce. Most of the people who visited were return customers. They often fell for the hot pepper trick. Maybe some of you in here maybe felt wrong for that, right? Yeah. He tried this new string bean. It's a hybrid. It's from China. It's really good. Really? Okay. He's like, it's good, huh? It's good, huh? Yeah, sure. Dad was a caring person. You wouldn't really know it unless you knew him personally. He wasn't the "I love you, son" type of person, far from it. But I knew he loved me. I knew he loved Mark, my mom. I was about 10 years old. We were in Eastern Oregon hunting, and we came across this coyote in a trap. And most people will just put it out of its misery. It's in a foot trap. I cried and cried, and I wanted Dad to get it out of the trap. And he's like, I just need to shoot it. And Mom was helping me a little bit. So he grabs a blanket and throws it over the coyote and gets the trap off the foot, and the coyote takes off. And I was like, wow, my dad did that. I mean, it's pretty cool. He was not very, he wasn't a very materialistic person. Heck, he only bought one new vehicle from like 1978 to 2023. I mean, I think I bought like 15 cars. I mean, yeah, it still has the Bronco. Yeah, I still remember buying a new from Tower Ford, 1978. And then Dad got, from some of you knew him as Bronco Billy. After that, Dad liked everyone, or at least he would give everyone a chance. I mean, there were times driving to Eastern Oregon when you'd hear a trucker on the CB, and he'd get on the CB and want to have a conversation with the guy. Hey, I'm from Coos Bay. And then they just talk for like 20, 30 minutes. Me and Mark were like looking at him like, he was just that type of person. He just liked meeting and talking with strangers. He'd initiate conversations with strangers at the restaurant while in line. Some people thought he was crazy. Most people would engage him though, and he was just a likable person. I think maybe we all need some of that. In summary, this is hard. My father, Glen, was loved and liked by many. I'll never forget the values he instilled in me. He's a great father, grandfather, great-grandfather, as well as a good husband. He'll be missed by many. He wasn't a religious man. He'd always say, "You're only here for a blink." In the big scheme of things, it's so true. Death can remind us to be closer to our family and friends, to spend more time with people while they're still here. That's what really matters. As many of you know, Dad had some unique sayings. He would use phrases like, I had no idea what they meant initially. I had to look it up. But pot liquor, coal, yeah, some of you might have been on the other end of that. I know I was. One of my favorites was keep your powder dry. Keep your powder dry. It's a term used by hunters and soldiers like pre-19th century who shot black powder guns. For those of you that don't know, you had to make sure your gunpowder was always dry, and when you needed it, it wasn't going to be wet. You always had to be prepared and ready, and be there for. Always be prepared and be there for your family. In closing, I love you, Dad. You'll be missed by many. And keep your powder dry. Thank you. We'd like to, if anyone wants to say anything, we'll just move the microphone up here. I know there's got to be some stories out there that I haven't heard. So if you want to just share something, doesn't have to mean anything long. Just if you want to say something, we're going to move the microphone down here. So give me a second. Is there anybody that wants to say anything? Listen. Okay. Good.
Technically, I'm the oldest grandchild, even though I'm not blood. I'm going to try to read what I wrote, not to put easier. So Grandma and Grandpa were so happy to get some grandkids when my mom met Travis. They made sure we felt loved, and as kids knew we had hit the jackpot with grandparents. They were even happier when we bought a house 4 houses down from them in Oregon. Grandpa was an amazing man and always had a good story to tell. Every day after school, Grandpa would make us French fries from the tasty right out of the garden. We loved our afternoons with him. When no one could teach me how to drive, Grandpa jumped at the opportunity. He was still recovering from that major abdominal surgery from a work accident, but it didn't stop him. The beer might have been his courage that day. As a 17-year-old girl who'd never really driven, and here he had this beautiful, completely restored Bronco with no power steering. Makes for a good story. After basic instructions, we were heading up the Allegheny Road for an adventure. I thought I knew what I was doing, but I learned quickly it was a lie. The trip was going well. I was learning how to steer without the power steering, and Grandpa was smiling ear to ear. As soon as I had it, a UPS truck came flying around the corner and put me right in my place. After getting my heart restarted and getting going again and Grandpa laughing, the double lane quickly became a 1-lane dirt road. And I'm asking, what do we do, Grandpa? A log truck comes flying around the corner at us. All he could say is, stay in your lane. We survived, and Grandpa laughed the hardest I'd ever seen him. And it's still a story we laugh about to this day.
Anybody else want to say something? Nobody? 1, 2, oh, yep, fine. My cousin, all the way from Bonanza? Yeah, Bonanza. Yeah.
I would be Uncle Pat's oldest nephew, I believe. He had a great sense of humor, even if you didn't like it all the time, especially with that pepper trick. But I remember a story, and I don't know if it's true or not, if it's just Uncle Glen talking, but maybe Aunt Kathy can verify for me, because supposedly she was there. Uncle Glen, there used to be this road up in Warehouser Country where it was a very steep down. You come back up the hill and it comes out on a landing. Well, according to Uncle Glen, he's going down that hill at like 60 or 70 miles an hour. And when he comes up the other side, everybody in the vehicles apparently screaming their head off because they know they're about to die. And he comes screeching to a stop right on the landing. And he looks over and he says, man, if somebody would give that Dukes a Hazzard yell, we'd have gone right off the top. So whether that's true or not, I don't know. But also, Uncle Glen, he liked to wrestle around with us. I can remember from my youngest days being out at Uncle Pat and Kathy's, floating up and down the river on the inner tube, shooting guns, fishing, whatever we were doing. He was always there for us. But he liked to wrestle around. When I was a teenager, being a smartass that I was, I got to messing around in his house one day, and he'd had a couple of drinks. And when I pushed him back, my dad said, "Glenn, are you going to take that crap from him?" Well, he wasn't going to take that crap from me, so he pushed me. Over the woodpile I went, right into the window, big old crash, and he's sober like that. So he pulls me back up. He says, he's good. And I can feel the blood running down my back. And I'm like, no, I'm not good. Something's wrong. And he looks, pulls it up, no problem. He was on his way to the garage to get a fishing hook. He was going to catch me right up.
Anybody else have any funny stories? Something they'd like to say? Marcella?
I'm Melissa's younger sister, and had the privilege of living down the road from Grandma and Grandpa. I just think back, I just got like a few little short, things, memories with Grandpa I wanted to share, so when I think about him. I have a million, I love, but I can still hear him see his little laugh and his spurts and his little jump. When we moved here, we were military brats growing up, so when we moved to Oregon, it was like a little bit of a culture shock from us Southern California kids. I moved here in 8th grade, and moved up, up Allegheny, and I remember getting off the bus first day, and Grandpa's there with the tractor, and he said, "Get in." I thought he was kidding, but yeah, we all got in the bucket, and he drove us back home. And so we never knew if it was going to be the tractor or Grandma's old Thunderbird that he made us get on the hood, and that's how we get to and from the road. Sure beat walking it though. Another silly story of Grandpa and Jamie Lindsay, who lived next door to us, and they're reunited now. Jamie Lindsay, in 8th grade, thought he was just, toughest kid ever. Told Glen that he could go shop to shop tequila with him, and Grandpa said, okay. And so Jamie's taking a shot, Grandpa's pretending to take, after one or two, Grandpa's wise and wasn't, but Jamie kept going. I think they got to like 6, and then Jamie started puking his brains out. And I remember just watching it thinking, like, I feel like there's a lesson here, and I don't think Jamie's getting it yet, but sure enough, I am. I guess lastly, I don't know, I disagree that Grandpa wasn't materialistic, because Thanksgiving we used to draw names for Secret Santa. And then at Christmas, we'd get together again and exchange our gifts. And one year, we're like, wait a minute, who'd you get, Grandpa? And he goes, myself. And our limit was like $20 or something back then, and he bought himself a really nice bow and arrow. So, how about that? Grandpa, I love ya, miss ya. Let's have coffee.
All right. Anybody else want to say? Yes, sir. Come on.
I'm Kurt Johnson with Johnson Rock Products years ago. Glen worked for me, and I got a funny story to tell you. Probably several, but this one is appropriate for an audience like this. We were doing a street job for the city of North Bend, and this inspector, he was just bugging us, nitpicking. And Glen, if you know him, he's all about business. He gets in with our pipe foreman. When he got in the ditch with Deputy Lewis on excavator. They were moving down the road, and you got in the way, you were going to get buried. So I know as a foreman, I'd park out of the way because I didn't want to get buried. But anyway, we were working along with this inspector. He keeps bugging us. I said, that Len's telling me, I said, Glenn, this guy's killing us. What are we going to do about it? He says, don't worry, I got it covered. What do you mean by that? Just don't worry about it, I got it covered, I got a plan. Okay. Well, the next day at lunchtime, the inspector sits down with us. Glen pulls out one of these peppers. And somehow he convinced the guy to take a big bite of this pepper. We didn't see him for a week.
Okay, anybody else want to say something? Yeah, Hannah?
Hello, my name is Hannah. I'm his youngest daughter. I feel like I'm already dead. So my memories of my grandpa are probably, now that I'm a parent, I'm like, oh, that might have been kind of dangerous to do. But yeah, like my sister Melissa said, making french fries after school, apple juice, it's so good. I miss it a lot. But I remember, God, in a Bronco, I was probably like 5 years old, sitting on Grandpa's lap, driving up Allegheny. I remember like, that was a big drop, but he was like, you gotta turn. Doing the stick shift and everything, and yeah, now that I'm a parent, I'm like, oh, he's very trusting in me. But yeah, I remember driving with him when I was like 5, and he would let me drive up to the mailbox, and I just thought it was so fun and so cool to do. And then I'm sure people know the gardening, like my dad said, and I just have so many memories of going in the garden with you guys and stealing all your cucumbers. Oh gosh, and you just taught me so much, and correcting, what was it, one of my teachers planting. I was like, no, my grandpa taught me how to do this. You're doing it wrong. But he really taught us all to, be confident in ourselves. And yeah, I'm just gonna miss him so much. Yeah, that's it. Just a lot of funny stories.
Okay, who's up next? Anybody? Yes, sir. Danny Lewis. See, the people you work with, they have all the good stories. Okay.
I had the privilege of working with him for years. If everybody had a work ethic like him, they could get a lot done. And it was a pleasure to work with him. We never had to cross a word in all those years. I probably gave him a reason to get kicked off a few times. He was amazing. You talk about a get her done guy. He was the guy down there in the bottom of that ditch. None of you ever seen him. I was the one up on top of the excavator getting all the glory. But he was the one that deserved it. Because I never worked with anybody like him. Amazing.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else want to say something? Closing? Owen? No, you're good?
I have a story.
No.
Boy, do I have stories. Chris Hingle, where you're at, she was a neighbor of ours. So she house. She wanted Glen to help spread it. He goes, well, you have to help me grab that asphalt rake. And Chris is only 5'7", well, I don't know. And so she was trying really hard, you know, and I came home from work and she goes, your husband is terrible to work with. He had me going. She said, I never did get it right, she said. She was a good lady.
Mom, you told me a funny story yesterday where a customer came up first time to the garden, and one of the warehouse helicopters flew by.
Yeah.
And it had the spray, big long thing on it. She's like, what's that? And Dad said, well, when you order 2 pieces, you get 3 free. They're going to deliver it to you. Really? And he just thought of these things, like, the circumstances, and he just, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else before I close it up here? Quick.
So I knew Glen before I even married into the Hacker family. I was married before and Rock worked for Johnson Rock. And so Glen, he always gave me a hard time, but the story about the peppers, Cody, our youngest son, Rocky would take him up there, and your dad would just try and beg Cody to eat those peppers, and so he finally decided to try money instead. And the thing was, Cody was always one up on him, and he didn't give him the money first, and then he wouldn't eat the peppers. So your dad lost a little bit of money on that.
Anybody else? Glen? Okay.
I met Glen when I went back to Michigan. I was married to his oldest brother. And how many people know Glen only by Glen? Everybody in this room? Very much, raise your hand. Okay. When I went back to Michigan and I met the family, there was 17 of them. See, my husband was the oldest of them. Anyway, everybody had a name. Glen Patrick was called Joe. Don't ask me why, I have no idea. And then certain people called him Pat. So when I came home in Vitamin Station, Jersey, and when we called him Pat all the time, it was Uncle Pat, it was always Uncle Pat. And then everybody around here said, who in the hell are you talking about? And they would call anybody by the name of Pat, it was always Glen. And I never called him Glen. And then we all went on a trip one year together, Kathy and Glen and Buddy and I. Well, my name's Glenda. We had a hell of a time at the airport. So believe me, it was Glen and Glenda. It just didn't make sense to the people who were checking us in. And last names are Hacker. So everybody in that family, when I met, everybody had a nickname. Linda was Tiny. Somebody was called, Ella was, Dawn was called Piggy. And, I mean, I didn't know who I was talking to. I was only 18 years old. And I'll tell you, I always got all my stuff back there. But everybody had nicknames. It was really, really funny. And then nobody knew who I was talking about here. Because you always went by Glen.
When I was younger, I remember you calling him Uncle Pat. I'm like, what? Pat?
Who is that?
The boys always call him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just funny how times change over the years. It's where you move, you use your real name, and I never knew who he was. They say, go talk to Joe. Who the heck is Joe? But it was really funny for them at that time.
Oh, yeah.
And they worked hard. Really hard. Really
the tractor. He shouldn't have been. He was riding the tractor doing his stuff. And he stopped and I said, Glen, what are you doing on that tractor? You're in treatment, blah, 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 blah. I'll decide what I'm going to do. And Kathy and I got laughing and he didn't understand why we were laughing. He didn't get it. And that was him. That's Mr. Decider.
Anyone else? Well, thanks for coming, everybody. Oh, we got Chris. I was wondering when you were going to stand up and say something.
I guess they remember me for all my music I played all the time. I lived next door to Glen and Kathy for 31 years. And I tell you, they were a pair, a real pair. Kathy was always there for Glen. And, you know, Glen, I could tell he loved Kathy, but they were always together, working in the garden, whatever they were doing, and they went to bed early together. Early. Anyway, this one story I have to tell you. Glen loved, he absolutely loved to raise 3 or 4 hogs every year. And Chris has another story she could tell you about the hogs, but I'll tell you this one. Anyway, I said to Glen, you're gonna leave those hogs when you go fishing, and you and Kathy are gonna take a little vacation? I said, you're gonna leave them out there? And he said, yes, and it's summertime. And I'm saying, Glen, they really smell bad. I said, they just really smell bad. I said, they don't smell like pigs. They smell like, that's not it now. I said, he says, well, I've got them in they're corralled up, they're okay. I said, they smell like Chanel number 5 instead of Corral number 5. And he says, what's that? And I had asked about it for a long time, but what did he do? Well, they had a dog kennel right next to my bedroom. And he put however many there were, I think there were, I don't know, 3 or 4 in the kennel. And it was summer, and I want to tell you, you could hear him going all the time. And smell, and I was never so glad to see him when he came home. And he just, laughed it off, went around doing his business, and that's fine. But he was a character. I have to say, he was a real character. Bless his heart. Bless Kathy. They're just wonderful people. And I love them both.
Kathy, I thank you and your family. You've blessed me a lot of years with my children, raising them. Glen played with the kids, took them in fishing, hunting, jumping in the river, disrupting your fishing. I don't know if you ever heard this one story. You remember when Sergeant Brokaw came down to hunt with Greg Sauce? It was a while back, and the guys, it was their last hunting trip together. They went, I think it was out towards Fairview. Anyway, Greg was on one mountain. There was a lot of laughter on this after this happened. Glen ended up on the wrong side of the mountain, and then it started getting dark, and they were getting worried about him. So at the very beginning, Randy always had a lighter in his pocket. Well, he had handed it to Greg because Greg wanted this lighter. So all of a sudden, Randy said something about it was getting dark because they had these walkie-talkies. And anyway, Greg was supposed to click the lighter. And all you could hear was, God damn it, he threw it. It was childproof. Randy said it was a brand new lighter, and he just threw it over the mountain. So they all came back laughing about that. But that was one of the last hunting trips my husband did. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll just stand here.
Okay, perfect.
I went to school with Kathy, and I did Glen through Johnson Rock Products, and Glen was always a pick to be around, but you never knew what he was going to say. Probably the most politically incorrect person. But you all know that Mark and Travis were awesome athletes, and our kids were in school with them, and so we would end up at a lot of the events with them, and sit by them or stand by them or whatever. And this one particular track meet, I think the boys were in like middle school, early middle school, and we were all standing around the track watching them. And I think it was a race for Mark, and of course he was way ahead, and we're cheering, and the other kids are coming up and, go, 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 and there's this poor little guy that's dead last, and he's chugging and he's trying so hard, and my mom was trying to say, come on, you can do it. And Glen says really loud, what's he doing out there? He won't read books.
Dad, he wasn't always aware of his surroundings when he said comments. Anybody else have anything? Nothing? Well, again, I appreciate everybody coming. Seeing as many people is a testament to what a great man he was. And that's it. Thanks for coming. If there's more food in there, I think. If you can stock down already, help yourselves. And thanks for coming.
It's a long ass video.
You're a long ass video. You're making me mad.